this is where I say a bunch of embarrassing things about Mukesh's background. And I can say that he has worked over 20 years with governments, international development partners, pretty much all over the world on a variety of health sector issues, including insurance solutions for global public goods, design and diffusion of complex innovations in health, identification of innovation business solutions to address systemic and process issues in the health sector. So basically the economics of health. And his current work involves helping countries better prepare to respond immediately and effectively to disease outbreaks. He co-chaired the International Working Group on Financing Preparedness with Peter Sands, and is now leading multiple efforts at the World Bank to advance global health security and pandemic preparedness. Traditionally, the World Bank has not been knee-deep in this area of pandemic preparedness, and I think in the post-Ebola world, they have taken really a leadership role in thinking about the essential role that financing plays in preparedness activities. So really quite delighted to have him here today. I will also note that he is also an affiliate of the Center for Global Health Science and Security here at Georgetown, and we are delighted to have him semi-officially part of our group. And with that, let me turn it over. Speak for as long as you want to speak, and then we'll do Q&A at the end. So, thank you.
Thanks a lot. How do I? You do that.
Just wave your hand.
Wave my hand. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you so much for coming so early in the morning. My name is Mukesh Chawla. I'm an economist by training. I don't know anything about most of what I'm going to be speaking about today. I spent 20 years of my life first working in Government of India on various things, nothing to do with health at all. Mostly on working with the governments and making things happen in the government system. And then after that, many years at the World Bank, where the focus always was the economics of health. Working on health systems. Most of the work on health systems was on health financing, was on the esoteric stuff like insurance and social insurance and on production and delivery. The total amount of time that I spent until maybe 2015 on public health issues was close to zero. It was not supposed to be the thing that you do at the bank, or it was not supposed to be even something that you would do outside being so important, and a huge mistake. And that's what we have found, and that's what the world has found, that was a terrible mistake. We at the bank in the last 10 years have invested in terms of loans and grants over $4 billion in low-income countries for strengthening health systems. And guess how much of that has gone to strengthening public health capacities in those countries? Close to zero. And a huge mistake. And we learned all about these mistakes only when the world was hit by Ebola in 2013, 14, 15. And that was a wake-up call. Next year, we mark the centenary of Spanish flu. And in many ways, I think it's a failure that it has taken us so long to understand that this is also a potential crisis that we should be paying as much attention to as we pay to economic crisis. In country after country that I have worked in low-income countries, I'm talking about very low-income countries, less than $3,500 per capita income. They have fancy regulatory systems for banking sector, fancy regulatory systems for financing sector. What do they have for health? Nothing. The health security has not been seen as a problem. All other kinds of securities, the economic security and the financial security and military security, all of those things get a great deal of importance. But health security has somewhat slipped, a huge mistake. And we learned that mistake, and we learned about it in 2013-14. And if that was not enough, we barely got over Ebola, then we got hit by Zika, barely got over Zika, and then we, even as we speak, are going through the plague in Madagascar. Just a couple of weeks back, we got hit by Marburg in Uganda on the border with Kenya. So it's just a question of time. Now, I know that this sounds like a doomsday thing, that, hey, we are all going to, get hit at some point, and we have no idea what happened. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Contagion. If you did, then ask yourself, what was the virus that started it all? And where did it start, in which little corner of the world, and how much time did it take to spread? I was talking with a friend from USAID when I met with him with Ron. His name is Dennis Carroll. And Dennis speaks about what he calls the movie scenario, that if you get hit by flu, by a new virus, then that's like a movie scenario. There's nothing that you can do. You can just sit back and pray and hope. And that 100 years have gone by, and we are still sitting back and hoping and praying. So that's the nature of the world that we are in. And the better that we understand that, I think better off that we will be. Whatever we can do, that we have to do. That has been the wake-up call at the bank. And like Rebecca said earlier, that we have been focusing almost entirely everything that we do in health sector, everything that we do in terms of our support to countries, in terms of investments, in terms of technical assistance, has been focused on economics, on schemes and on processes that enhance people's income and welfare. The last couple of years have changed the thing a little bit. And what I'm going to speak to you today about are the new innovations or measures that we have put in place in the last couple of years that we believe are game changers. And we are seeing the difference already. And I will come back and speak again a little bit about the reaction to Marburg in Uganda, and the reaction to the plague in Madagascar, and then try to compare that with the reaction to Ebola in 2013 and early 2014 in Western Africa. And you can see the difference, not only in which the ways in which the world has reacted or is reacting, but the ways in which even the World Bank has repositioned itself and is reacting. And it's a huge difference. But let me speak a little bit about the work that we do, and will run through most of my slides, and then we'll be happy to take any questions thereafter. Next, please. Thank you. So, a couple of years back, 6 years back, Jim Kim, then our new president, gave us a new strategy, new goals, twin goals as we call them: ending extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity. Shared prosperity means that you want to bring up the income of the lower 40% and making sure that the fruits of growth are distributed much better than what they are being just now. How do we get to these two goals? Hitherto, the way that we got to these goals was through economic growth. The argument was that if you can get growth, then what you will see is a big difference in per capita income, and then if you can get your internal measures right, then the growth will filter through the system and everybody will benefit. There's nothing wrong with that, excepting that it's not sufficient. So we get to these two goals by doing much more than just economic growth. Definitely growth is one thing, but there are two more things that we have to do. One, we have to strengthen human capital. What does that mean? It means that there's a focus on nutrition, there is a focus on productivity, there is focus on learning. It's not enough to go to school, but it's more important to go to school and to learn, to improve human capital. Extremely important. I'm from India, in a small country, 1.2 billion people. India has the largest number of children who are malnourished. the largest number. Imagine if the productivity of that 36% of the kids who are malnourished, if that level of productivity was the same as that of somebody who's not malnourished. And we know that there are huge differences in the way that the brain grows in the first 1,000 days. So imagine if it was the same as that of somebody who's not malnourished. So you can imagine that then that the growth rate of the country, which boasts at this point of time 7%, 8%, 9%, just yesterday the country got upgraded by Moody's. Just imagine where that country would be today. It has taken us so long to get to where we are, largely because there's a huge chunk of the population that is stuck in that extremely low level equilibrium of poor productivity. If you ask me, for no fault of theirs, by the time you're 4 or 5 years old, I mean, you're done. If you believe in that science, then your brain has developed, or whatever has to happen has happened. So there's not much more that can happen outside of learning, but the capacity then to learn gets limited. A big problem. It's human capital. And the third way of doing it, which is new, this was not there in the way that we thought about this subject until 2 years ago, is strengthening resilience, is strengthening the capacity of countries to withstand shocks. Not only economic shocks, which was the bread and butter of what we did earlier, but also health shocks. Not only tsunamis and earthquakes and other natural disasters, which are binary events which happen in a few seconds, but also very slow-moving health outbreaks that may take months and months and months to filter through the system. And that changes many things, because all of a sudden now it becomes extremely important to start worrying about resilience. It becomes extremely important to start focusing in on investments and making available the financing and the technical advice and the convening that the bank can bring to the table to focus on things like strengthening resilience. Believe you me, 2 years back, the term resilience was not even in the lexicon. We never spoke about it. We read about it in books and articles and so on. It did not mean much outside of social protection, outside of how resilient I am in terms of my own income, can I withstand economic shocks. Outside of that, it meant nothing. Today, that's the word that describes us, how we get to these twin goals. And these are the kind of things that change the way that the bank then starts allocating resources, allocating time, allocating people to then start working on things, and then asking people like me and many of my other colleagues to leave what we were doing as our bread and butter and then start focusing on things like global health security. If you had asked me 2 years ago that will I ever be working on global health security, I would have asked you, I don't know what that means even. But today, if you ask me that will I go back and work on social health insurance, and I'll say, really, I think this is far more important than that. So this is how these things change. Next, please. How do we think about global health security? We think about this in the context of universal health care. Universal health care is an aspiration. It is a political aspiration. We want everybody to have access to healthcare whenever, wherever they need it. We all know that it's not easy. We all know that you need to be at a certain level. I don't know of any country under $5,000, $6,000 per capita income that has been able to say that, yes, we have achieved UHC. It's just not possible because it costs a great deal of money. You need maybe, I don't know, $200, $300 per capita to be able to get to a situation where you can say that, yes, I have universal health care. How many countries spend $200, $300 per capita? Not many. Most of the low-income countries, which is a world where I work in a lot, and there are 77 of them just now, they are spending anywhere between 40 and 100 US dollars per year on health. So if I'm spending $40 per year or $100 per year on health, say if I'm Ethiopia, a population of 80 million, and I'm spending $100 only, but I need maybe say $300, then I'm looking at 300 times 80 million, that's 2.4 billion. I don't have 2.4 billion to spend every year on health, so I will never get to UHC. But UHC is the aspiration that we have to get to, and the way that we get there is by strengthening our health systems. That's what we spend money on. What we also believe that if we are not able to ensure protection against health shocks, then no matter what you do, no matter how strong your healthcare system is, if one little thing happens and everything then collapses, then you are not in UHC at all. We saw that what happened in Western Africa during Ebola. A very large number of people, and we don't even know those numbers even now, suffered not only because of Ebola, but there were many other things which they were not able to attend to. So many women who had children at home because there were no doctors left. There was nobody there. There are so many things that you would normally see as routine part of the healthcare system. That healthcare system did not exist. It just vanished. It was very small to start with. It became minuscule after that, largely because everybody got pulled into something else. So you need to have strong systems to be able to get to UHC. Otherwise, talking about UHC is, I don't know how useful that is. It may be a nice coffee talk, but you can't get much out of that. Next, please. This then brings us into the world of the pandemic risk management. This is a slide that we worked with a year and a half back in Japan, who were the champions of UHC, who wanted to put in a great deal of resources and influence in the world on universal health care. But we wanted to couch the universal health care and the pandemic risk management together and see how does it all really fit in, and who does what, and what is the meaning of all of this. And then we came up with this rather clumsy way of putting everything together. It obviously doesn't fit in that neatly, and that has always been both an intellectual challenge and a persuasion challenge. We know, we have a gut feel that it is important to be investing in preparedness. But when you start speaking of UHC, then the gut feel is that I need to spend much more on prevention. And then we make that distinction between prevention and preparedness, and we go closer towards prevention, further away from preparedness, and then we kind of get lost, largely because we believe everything looks so nice, the sun is out, it's so beautiful, there's not going to be anything that's going to be happening here tomorrow, it's all good, let me go get my shots and I'm fine. But that's what the whole problem is, and if it is easy for countries like the US or for the richer countries which have the resources, which have the money to spend, imagine how complicated that can be for countries which are struggling with $100 or less per year on health per person. Next, please. You all know this. Pandemics are a serious threat, but for some reason, we only speak about it after an event. We speak about almost everything else, but we don't speak about pandemics. I did not, until 2 years ago, ever worry about pandemics. I can go and see a nice movie about it, that was good, but I never thought about it that it could be something as dramatic or as serious as this. I read these articles, I read these numbers and said, yeah, that happened in the past, and yes, it may happen sometime here, but it won't happen to me. A couple of weeks back, I was traveling, this was in Bangladesh, and having a conversation with the Minister of Finance in Bangladesh, and I was speaking about pandemic and pandemic preparedness and about Ebola and so on. I get a response back, yeah, but that was in Western Africa, that doesn't happen here. And then everybody around the room lost interest, and they were busy on their smartphones and doing their own work, and nobody was interested in me talking about preparedness. I then changed the topic to something more current for them on the Myanmar border, and suddenly they kind of became interested. Goes to show that what's happening today, what is proximate, that's what's important. What's not proximate, what I don't know, what I haven't seen, then it's not going to happen to me. It's going to happen to somebody else, but not me. So why should I be worrying about it? Next, please. We all know this. The human costs of pandemics is extremely high, not only in terms of lives lost, not only in terms of human misery, not only in terms of the misery of those who survive and are left to mourn their loved ones, but also economic. And we all saw what happened in the three countries in Western Africa. In Sierra Leone, a country heavily dependent on FDIs, lost 27.4% of FDI, or foreign direct investment, in 3 months, quarter on quarter, 27.4% decline. You can imagine, huge for a country that lives on that. A very, very serious issue. I don't need to kind of belabor this point. Next, please. We believe that fighting pandemics is a virtuous cycle. We believe that it is important to make these investments. It is important to make these investments in preparedness. It is important to make, and the better off that we are in terms of preparedness, the faster we will be able to respond. Just the same way as we put sprinklers. I'm sure there are sprinklers here somewhere, which we can't see, but I'm sure they are there. There they are. We have, so, so these things are important. Why? Because you have to be prepared for these things. We wear seat belts. You will still have accidents, and they don't work all the time. Sometimes they even work, kind of against you, but most of the time they do work. You have to be prepared. You have to invest in those things. And these are one-shot investments, and they don't take too much, according to me. And maintaining them also doesn't take too much, accepting that it is a tangible investment. And we believe that if you make that investment, then you will definitely be better off, because you'll be able to respond faster. Next, please. This was a great quote. I don't know who said this, but I have been using it shamelessly. Had I not been sitting here or standing here in Georgetown University, I would have said that this is my quote. Well, it's not mine. Infectious disease outbreaks are inevitable. Pandemics are optional. And we believe that, yes, stuff will happen. There will be animal-to-animal transmission that happens all the time. Sometimes it jumps animal to human and just dies out. Sometimes it sustains and becomes human to human, and then it just explodes. And it will happen. Where it happens next, we don't know. The one that happened in Marburg case in the border of Uganda and Kenya has been traced to a hunter in the caves, infested with bats. Now, we all knew that even earlier, but you can't get to every little corner that has bats in them. But we believe that outbreaks are inevitable. They will happen, but pandemics are optional. There is a website which I used to see every day until a few months back, and then I stopped because I used to then start waking up my day with, and I would just get depressed. It's a beautiful website. If you go into it, it has those red spots and hot spots, and it starts flashing where they have this alert or that alert. Every day there are so many alerts, and you just stare at it and you say, "Oh my God, this is the end. I'm going to step out and something bad is going to happen because there is some virus somewhere that I can't see or can't understand." Then I stopped seeing it completely. I said, "Okay, forget about it. When something happens, then something will happen," because pandemics are optional. But they're not optional because we say so. They're optional because we can make them optional. We can do things about them. And I want to speak a little bit about the different kinds of pandemics. Some things that we can do and many things that we cannot do, but we can still prepare for them. Next, please. A complicated one. We call this our rainbow slide. This is a world that we thought about when we said, okay, if you look at pandemic risk management, what does that mean to us? Obviously, you have to start with preparedness, and you have to go all the way up to recovery. We invoked this colorful, messy slide to highlight the little star there, which you see as the PEF, which is what I will be talking about a little bit more in some detail. There's a lot of money which is available within country budgets and outside on preparedness, but not enough, and people don't use that. Immediate to early response, there is a little bit of money that comes in, particularly for low-income countries are able to mobilize or remobilize some of their own resources, mostly not. Um, Later on, towards the end, in terms of disaster response, you get humanitarian assistance, and that's a lot of money. If you look at the Ebola trajectory, you will see that Ebola started sometime in December 2013. Jan, Feb, March, April, May, there was very little money. There was some money that came from African Union, some money that came from Nigeria for these countries. It was in single-digit millions that vanished extremely fast. It was not until late October, November 2014 that humanitarian assistance started pouring in. There was a huge gap in between. And what do we do about the huge gap? That's what led to the creation of the PEF, but more on this later. If you can read this, which obviously you cannot because even I can't read it, you will see a number of little initiatives which are there for of different bilats and multilats and MDBs that countries have some sort of access to. And but I can tell you, all of these come with a lot of strings. All of these come with a process of negotiation. It's not something that comes when you have a crisis. It comes eventually. Next, please. So what do we do in terms of the work that we do at the bank? Obviously, we are a bank. Our forte is financing. So that's what we do. We are not a health organization. That is WHO. Where we come in is with money. That's what we bring to the table, with influence in countries' budgets, in countries' allocation decisions. That's what we do. And the way that we came in, it started off with the recommendations from the various high-level reports. As you know, post-Ebola, there were many, and some of them had extremely smart recommendations. And that's what led to the financing both of preparedness and financing of response. This discussion and this conversation was not there pre-Ebola. This conversation was part of health system strengthening pre-Ebola. And health system strengthening meant focusing on production and delivery and financing and governance. Public health capacity strengthening was not in the conversation pre-Ebola. Next, please. So, number of new initiatives. I'll come back to this. This is just to show you the last couple of years what all we have done. The latest one is the one on vital strategies. The last one, we've been working a lot with Tom Frieden after he left CDC and joined Vital Strategies and started the group called Resolve. So we work with him a lot, particularly on preparedness and on pandemics. But more on this later. Next, please. Some of the biggest innovations, and IDA is the International Development Association. This is our fund for the poor countries, for the low-income countries. We are in the 18th replenishment cycle, which started on July 1, 2017. Each cycle is a 3-year cycle, so this goes on from 2017 to 2020. A record amount of money that the donors have put in. It is $75 billion US. Never before had we had so much money. Not only that, but the brilliance in this is that it allows for a tremendous amount of innovation internally. And I just want to highlight a couple of them. 2.5 billion window, private sector window. It was not there earlier. This now allows us to bring in the private sector to join in any activity in the country. This is not for health, this is for everything. 2 billion refugee sub-window, obviously keeping in mind the current refugee situation. CRW, the crisis response window. This is a window that we use to fund the Ebola response in West Africa. Went up from 800 million to 3 billion US. There are different rules in the way that this money is used, different ways in which it gets disbursed. Most importantly, in terms of speed, this money can get out in under 4 weeks, which is remarkable. Most of our project preparation is 6 months. That's 4 weeks is just amazing. A CAT DDO, which is another fantastic innovation. A CAT DDO is a catastrophe drawdown option. Um, it is a contingency financing option. It is giving countries an insurance. Basically, what we do is that we offer the following program to the country. I'm going to offer you $100 million for any catastrophe. Let's sit down and define what it means. A catastrophe could also be a health catastrophe. This is new. Health was not defined as a catastrophe. Outbreaks were not catastrophes until now. This changed only last few months. This money is yours. You will only have access to this money once you declare a catastrophe, if you have one, that is. If you don't have a catastrophe, that's fine. You can take this money and put it to some other use. So it's like saying that I'm offering you insurance and I charge you nothing for it. Zero. No maintenance fee, no production fee, no planning fee, no nothing. So I'm offering you an insurance for nothing. And I sweeten the pot even more, because under IDA allocations for countries get a fixed amount based on certain parameters like per capita income and population and how good their policies are in terms of development orientation. So they get an amount of money which is known ex ante at the beginning of the 3-year cycle. Every country knows how much they get. This is over and above that. So I'm sweetening the pot for you. If I tell you that you will get $1 billion from me over the next 3 years, you take $100 million, that's over and above that. Please take this insurance and keep it with you. We just started this. We are working in several countries now, great deal of interest. We just finished Maldives, small island nation, but very important. We are now talking to Pakistan and to Kenya, and very advanced discussions on CAT DDOs. This is a game changer for us. This facility was not available. This instrument was not available. And just the fact that it's now available brings the recognition of this right up to the forefront. And that's what changes things. On the special health themes, so when we do the IDA, when you write up the note on IDA, the donors insist on some special themes that you will focus on governance, so you will spend most of your money on infrastructure. One of the special themes for the first time ever now is that at least 25 countries, and it is now becomes our responsibility that at least 25 countries have developed actionable preparedness plans, pandemic preparedness plans. This was not there ever before. This is where I'm speaking of low-income countries. I have 77 of them. At least 25 of them have to have these plans. We went around the world, my world of 77 countries. 71 of them have plans already in some way, shape, or form. You can open them, and I challenge you, you will not be able to make head or tail of anything that is written there. Somebody came, some consultant flew in there and wrote up this very nice plan. It's not even worth the paper on which it is written. They are not actionable. They are aspirational. Or when this happens, we will do this. Really? From where? I'm going to move 25,000 lorries. 25,000 lorries? You don't even know where they are. Where will you move them from? But plans exist on paper. And they're useless, because when something happens, then you can't do a thing. Not entirely true, but because we saw the Ebola response in Nigeria, that worked. We saw the Ebola response in Mali, that worked. We saw the Marburg response in Uganda now, that seems to be working. But if I tell you that Liberia also had a plan, then probably you won't believe me. Next, please. So what we are trying to do now is this is just much more detail in case somebody is interested. But what we are trying to do now is to make sure that all countries, that's the aspiration. Of course, we won't succeed, but all countries, maybe not in these 3 years, but definitely in the next 6 years, buy into this insurance. Insurance is the most useless thing in the world because if you only see the value of insurance when you use it. We buy health insurance not because we want to fall sick, but when you do fall sick and you use the health insurance, it suddenly becomes useful. House insurance is the most useless insurance ever. I don't know why we buy it. I have house insurance. I don't know why I pay so much money for house insurance. Because the probability of something happening is so low, but I'm required to. If I'm taking a loan, then I have to get that silly insurance. But again, the insurance becomes useful when I actually use it. So therefore, selling an insurance is not easy. But you can only enforce it. So most of the insurances, as you know, are mandatory. You have to have all car insurance. You have to have this insurance, that insurance. But if you can sell this insurance, which is why we are trying to make it free. So I'm selling you a product that costs you nothing. If I turn around tomorrow and if I say to you that, okay, I'm going to give you a $10,000 insurance for something and you have to pay nothing, you just sign. Now, all that you will do is you will just read it extremely carefully that you're not signing away your life. If not, then you will just sign. It's for free. That's what we're trying to say to the country, that guys, it's for free, take it. Of course, once you take it, it becomes a contingent liability, so it shows on your books. So therefore, it limits your borrowing ability, which is what countries are balking at just now. And that's what we are worrying about. And we'll get over that one as well. Next please. All of this thinking led to, we need to have some facility to respond to a crisis. That's what led to the creation of the Pandemic Emergency Financing Facility. This is what has occupied us and my small team the last couple of years, working on the Pandemic Emergency Financing Facility. It's the first of its kind. It's the first insurance facility of its kind for pandemics. In one line, what it offers to countries is, at a small premium, at this point of time, it is 1.8 cents per person per year. That's the premium. For 1.8 cents per person per year, I guarantee to you that if something bad were to happen, bad as defined, then you will get so much money. There is nobody will come to check what is happening. It is not indemnifying a loss. I'm not coming to see what you have lost or not lost. But if something happens, you have a collision, it is reported to me that you have a collision, you got $1,000. You spent $500, you spent $2,000, I don't care. You got $1,000 immediately. It's that kind of insurance, first of its kind. You can imagine, extremely challenging. How do I determine the probability? How do I know that something bad is going to happen? How do I calculate this probability? How do I calculate probability of Ebola? How many instances do I have of Ebola? Anybody here who knows a little bit of econometrics will be scratching their heads. How do you actually do that? Having done that, how do I go about convincing the private investors? Because all of this money we have taken from the private investors. And I'll explain to you some details on this very quickly. Next, please. We can skip this one. We've spoken about this. Next, please. We can skip this one as, oh well, just very quickly, if you could go back, please, thank you. This was developed together with WHO and with private sector partners. We worked very, very closely with Swiss Re and with Munich Re. We invited all the reinsurance companies who could come to us and work with us. These two agreed. We worked very closely with expert actuaries, AIR, which is headquartered, I think, in Boston, or at least the group that we worked with in Boston. But they're all over the world, the largest actuarial company. It took us almost 2 years to work on this, largely because we spent most of the time modeling and calculating the probability of an event happening and then fighting over it. Is it 3% or 1% or 2% or 4%? Because every little percent mattered, because the premium is nothing but a multiple of the probability. So if I get my probability wrong by 1%, then that doubles my premium if my base probability is 1%. So you can imagine every little thing here mattered. There's a lot of discussions, arguments. We use very standard models that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, the SEIR models, and but working iterations and simulating the occurrences was not that straightforward. Next, please. Next, please. We have spoken about this one as well. So what the PEF does, or the Pandemic Emergency Financing Facility, PEF has become a noun and a verb in the bank. So when we get very tired and exhausted, then we're all PEF'd up. And there are many other innovative uses of PEF that you can imagine. I will not get there. The PEF has a cash window and has an insurance window. The innovation here is the insurance window. The cash window is a traditional trust fund. We have had these trust funds forever. This is just a trust fund. Donors give money, we hold the money, something happens, there are some rules and conditions, and then we give out the money. That's the trust fund. That's the cash window. We hold the money in trust. Donors give it to us because we have fiduciary systems that they trust in, and that's what's called a trust fund. The insurance window is a new one. The insurance window is the one which I spoke about. This is the one that is financed by the kind of traditional insurance or through bonds. How do bonds come in? What we have just now, bulk of the insurance window is financed by bonds. A bond is, I have a private investor. The investor puts money with me. We negotiate. I give back a return to the investor. Let's say it is 8%. That's a lot of money. You can't get 8% in the market just now. But we are offering 8%. Anybody here has $1 million to spare? Please call me. 8% is what we promise you. But there's a catch. The catch is that should something happen that triggers the insurance, you lose the entire capital. So you give me your $1 million, I'll give you 8%, nothing happens. You go back with 8% every year. You go back with 240,000 and you go back extremely happy that you have made so much money that these guys at the bank are stupid. Yes, but if something were to happen, you lose everything. Don't call us, you don't have $1 million left, it's gone, it's finished. Now this was the discussion that took an extremely long time for us to have with the private investors and convincing them that the return that you are getting captures the risk that you have. And if you see what the LIBOR is at this point of time, the LIBOR is under 1%. So we are looking at multiples of the LIBOR. You go and open an account in a bank, you probably get 0.05% interest. You may find some mutual funds or some T-bills that may give you 1%. We are offering you 8%. And that is what we settled in. We were oversubscribed by 200%. So there was a lot of interest, and we opened this up in every market in the world, in Tokyo, in Hong Kong, in 6 markets in Europe, of course, US. Everywhere. Anybody that has, and the minimum was 1 million. Anybody that has $1 million or wants to put in here, we are AAA rated. We'll hold your money for you. We are IBRD, and we'll go through all the legal agreements with you. These are the conditions that you have to live by. The conditions are parametric, which means that it's based on a data that we get from a third party. So I don't create the data. I don't say that Marburg is bad in Uganda. I don't say that. Somebody else says that. We go with that data. So because if I say that and I hold your money, then you won't believe me. Then you tell me to go fly. So I'm not saying that. A third party says that. That you agree, I agree, and the third party agrees. So that's the way that the whole thing has been worked out. So you can imagine how complicated this was to get everybody on the same table. Next, please. So some more details. At this point of time, in this avatar, the PEF covers only the following 6 diseases and disease families. Influenza, the new ones, not the seasonal ones. Corona, which is SARS and MERS. Phyllo, which is Ebola, Marburg. Lassa fever, Rift Valley, and Crimean Congo. You can ask me, why not Nipah? Well, because we were not able to model Nipah. These were the 6 that we were able to model. I wish that we were able to model more. That's what we are now trying. In the next avatar that starts 2.5 years from now, we want to extend this from 6 to 18. At this point of time, it is 6. Because this modeling this itself, and if I show you those numbers and you give me a different model with a different number, I will not be able to say much, except to say that, yes, your model has this problem, and you can then tell me that my model has this problem, and both of us are right. So it is a new market. Think when the first insurance started, and in the 19th century, a bunch of people sitting around the coffee table in the Lloyd's Cafe in London, all the ship owners, and that's how the insurance world started, and it took a very long time for it to mature. It's the first of its kind, and I liken this to Facebook. So when Facebook started, nobody knew about it, and we all thought it was such a stupid idea. Today, I don't think we'll be able to say that. The coupons, at this point of time, the premiums, or the coupon as it is called in this market, are paid by the development partners, by donors. We are not asking the countries to pay just now, because this insurance only works if everybody buys it. And if everybody doesn't buy it, if I don't have a critical mass, it doesn't work. It's like your health insurance works because everybody buys it. So I have to get everybody to buy it, and it's very difficult for me to convince 77 countries that, hey, you must pay up for this insurance, for all the good reasons I spoke about earlier. For this round, this money is paid for by donors. Funding is released upon parametric activation criteria, which is based on size, the number of confirmed cases or deaths. Spread has to be more than one country. It is pandemic, so it's not endemic, so it's not something happening within one country, but something that spreads. And growth, which means that it is increasing. So the rate of change is high. If you were to, if the curve was exponential, y is equal to e to the power of at, a is greater than 0. That makes the rate of growth extension. And we pay out in layered terms. So you get hit with so many deaths, you get so much money. So many more deaths, then you get more money, and so on. Next, please. Some details, don't have to look into it. Just see one of them. For pandemic influenza, 5,000 cases, we pay out the entire amount, 100%, 275 million. 5,000 cases, I can assure you, if you have an influenza outbreak, you reach 5,000 cases in less than 5 days. It spreads rapidly, and you reach 5,000 cases extremely fast. We want 5,000 confirmed cases as confirmed by WHO. WHO says, yes, 5,000 cases, my investors lose their entire capital. And then there are other layers for coronavirus, for Phyllo, for Lassa. So we have different layers and the different amounts. And this was also a subject of tremendous negotiation. You will ask me, why am I paying out at 250 deaths and why not 200 deaths? Well, I could, except that 200 deaths increases the probability and makes it more expensive. I'm hoping that in the next iteration, maybe not, but definitely in the iteration after that, in PEF 3.0, this number 250 will come down to 50, because our modeling will improve, the confidence will improve, our understanding will improve, the market will mature. Just now, it's the first time that we are doing it, we don't even know ourselves whether this is actually the right number or not. The only thing that we had to go by was Ebola. So you can imagine a lot of the influence here was Ebola. I'm pretty sure that we have it right for influenza. I'm pretty sure that we have it right for Ebola. I'm not sure about others, but we will learn as we go along. If anybody here has any ideas, please do share with us. Next, please. The PEF has a cash window. The cash window comes in a little bit earlier. It's extremely flexible. It's not rigid. It's not based on the number of deaths. There is no activation criteria. It's if something happens, something unique, if there is a spike, and if somebody can tell me that it is a spike, we pay out from the cash window. The cash window basically says, is this epidemic an epidemic? If somebody can answer that question, we will say, yes, it is an epidemic. So, for example, the cash window starts next year in January. For Madagascar plague, the cash window would have paid out. For Uganda, Marburg, the cash window would not have paid out. Only 3 deaths, we would not have paid out. But plague, we would have paid out because this plague can get to be really bad. Rabies, we would pay out immediately. Smallpox, of course, we'll pay out at once. We won't even think about it. But those are the kind of things where it has to be either a very rare thing or has to be a spike, and somebody can define what a spike is. There's a whole literature on when is a spike, and so we go with the standard accepted terms in terms of standard deviations. Ma'am.
Who defines it? So does the World Bank decide, or does WHO decide?
A bunch of experts. We go to experts, and we have a list of people internationally. We just call them up, 2 or 3 of them, and ask them, is this a spike? Yes, it's a little hand waving, but this is my trust fund money. I hold this money, and we take a decision on that basis, and we give out small amounts of money. We don't give 40, 50, 100 million in this. We give 1 million in this. So if I had this money with me today, I would have given Madagascar 1 million 6 weeks ago. I would have given Uganda nothing if I had this money with me today. I don't have it. I'll have it in January. I hope I never use it, but I know that I actually will. Next, please. Who receives the funds? Any national entity and any responding agency. This is one thing that we have learned from the last outbreak, that even WHO and UNICEF and so on were looking for money when we had the Ebola outbreak. A $100 million proposal was put forward by WHO as early as June 2014, and they never got the money, and they didn't have the money on their own. By the time they were able to raise the money and do it past the hat, it was 3-4 months had gone by. 3-4 months is 3-4 months too late. We are speaking with a large number of agencies. Just yesterday, we spent some time with one other agency. So far, the ones which have been accredited are FAO, UNICEF, UNDP, UNHCR, UNFPA, WFP, and WHO. These are the easy ones because we understand their systems, we understand the fiduciary systems. It's easy for us to say yes. Next, please. We want to go ahead and find NGOs and CSOs and so on. It'll take a little bit of time to make sure that we have it right in terms of understanding how they do their accounts. Next, please. What will it finance? Anything. Anything that qualifies to be a response is fine. Response, not preparedness, not recovery. We are not building hospitals, but you want to do a makeshift thing, please go right ahead. And anything, any temporary care center, you want to pay extra salaries, you want to give incentives, anything on communication, coordination, equipment, logistics, food, cooking oil, anything that you need in terms of response, this one will finance that. Next, please. How does it work? Well, it's very simple. We have insurance window and we have the cash window. When you have an outbreak, the criteria is satisfied. Moment the criteria is satisfied, the country puts in a request for funds application. It's a beautiful application. It's 1 page. There's just a few questions. There's no fancy stuff, nothing. Just your name, what's the outbreak, and the WHO report. That's all. You don't have the report, don't give it, because I can call WHO myself. And it's a very, very, very simple application, and then you get the money. It's as simple as that. Our target is to release the money within days. If we can do this, I hope that we never have to do it, but if I have to do it, and if I am able to do it, that would be phenomenal. Then I'm able to push money out extremely fast. Same thing for the cash window, excepting that here it is not parametric, so it's not in my hands. I have to go to experts. Experts say that yes, this is a rare event or this is a spike, then I give money out from the cash window. But for the insurance window, I go to nobody because everything is predefined. It's predefined, it's announced. I will offer you a website at the end of this talk. You can see it, it's all there. And it's all out in the open, extremely transparent. Next, please. We have spoken about this already, the different instruments. The next, please. This was our winner slide, and I want to speak about this a little bit. These, the graphs that you see, the lines which you see going up, those are the total number of cases of Ebola during the outbreak. The bars that you see, the gray ones first, this is the amount of money that actually came in. And you can see when the outbreak started and when the money actually came in. The money started coming in October, the one that you see, that was a World Bank loan. Then November, December that you see after that, that is humanitarian assistance. Had the PEF been in existence at that point of time, we would have paid out as early as July. That is the yellow bar. Now, does it make a difference if I pay out in July as opposed to paying out in October? We believe it does. That's what our starting hypothesis is. That we believe that if those countries had the resources and if WHO had the resources at that point of time, the trajectory of these three graphs would have been dramatically different. By the time they actually got the money here, it was too late already. You're already in deep doo-doo by then. If we had gotten money there, it may have well been a very, very different story. Can I prove that? No. Do I believe that? Yes. Next, please. So there is only one study that we know of which was done by some researchers, and this is based on Nigeria. And they said that if intervention, please see the right-hand one first, if interventions had started on day 50, this would have been the trajectory in terms of the cumulative number of cases. Had the intervention started on day 3, that would have been the trajectory. So they did a number of simulations. This is the only study that I know of that I've seen. I'm not saying that this is perfect. All of this is based on a lot of assumptions, but the same assumptions are used for both sides of the panel. And this one shows tremendous amount of trauma here. That one shows almost nothing. But that intervention happens on day 3. Of course, for it to succeed, you need to have strong preparedness systems. If you don't, then you don't succeed. I can pump in a great deal of money, but I need to have some systems in place. At the same time, we believe that while the preparedness systems start happening, I must have my response mechanisms. I must have a fire engine, a fire tender, and I must have access to water. By the time I get my sprinkler system set up, I must have these. Next, please. So, worrying about putting money to preparedness, when we asked countries, and they said, look, we can't do that because there is no money to put in preparedness. I have a small amount of money, and that small amount of money has to go into meeting my proximate demands. I have a sick child coming in to my health clinic. Do I take care of that sick child first? Or do I tell them, hey, I've got no money because I'm saving money for your tomorrow? It's not an easy conversation, especially if I am resource constrained. That's a very, very, very difficult conversation. So we put together a task force. We brought in a number of super smart people. Some of them are in this room. And said that, okay, let's all sit down and let's all think about this and talk about this. What is the way in which we can get countries to put in this money? What is it that they ought to be doing? On the left-hand panel, that's the cover of our report. It's called From Panic and Neglect to Investing in Health Security. And on the right-hand side is a beautiful poem. I thought I would read it if I had the time, which I don't now. But this Winston Churchill wrote this in 1890. He called it the influenza. So these are just some excerpts from that one. Pretty dramatic. He was 15 years old then, in 1890. Yes, 16 years old then. But yes, he had a flair for drama even then. And but I thought it was beautiful, so we took a little thing and we stuck it in as the first page of our report. Next, please. So what we did here is we gave ourselves a mandate. The mandate is that we need to build an economic case. It has to be an actionable case, has to be a political case. It's very easy for me to make an economic case for anything that you want me to. It's very, very easy. I can create some mumbo jumbo you will never understand. And if I ask, do I have an economic case for investing in MCH, in nutrition, yes, and yes. But economics is not about economic cases. Economics is about choices. Economics is I have an economic case for 100 things. Of these 100 things, I have to choose 2 or 3 or 4 or 90. It's about choice. If I have money for everything, that's not economics. That's accounting. I can go home. But I have to make a choice here. So that trade-off, most of the time, is political. And that's what we are trying to do in this report. Next, please. Key challenges in financing preparedness, we spoke about that earlier. It's very difficult, very, very difficult to convince a finance minister to put in money for which the best outcome is that nothing happens. Imagine if I tell you that, hey, I want you to put in 100 million and you know what? Nothing will happen. Like I'll say, are you crazy or something? I don't have 100 million, and B, if I put 100 million, I want something to happen. I want to go cut a ribbon or get a picture or something. And what you're telling me is that this money will ensure that nothing happens, and that's dumb investment politically. So you have to find a way of making that a smart investment, and that's what we were actually worrying about. Next one, please. We have a bunch of recommendations. I don't want to go through all of them. You can read the report. But basically what we were saying is that there are some things which are available at this point of time. There are some movements, some initiatives. One big one called the JEE, or the Joint External Evaluations. Hey, let's go through that and let's go beyond that. Let's cost them out and let's find the money for this and let's put that money in. And then let's make a political economic case for investing in preparedness. I'm convinced. That's the fun of, anyway. The best way of doing anything is just by a force of conviction, right or wrong. So I'm convinced, rightly or wrongly, that there is no way in which I can ever convince a government, I can ever convince a finance minister of any resource-constrained country to put money into preparedness. It's impossible. I won't even try it. However, what I can do is that I can redefine what preparedness means and bring the return from future to present. So if I can show to you that putting money into the health system will improve your today, then I'll be able to convince you. But if I tell you that putting money in and strengthening your diagnostics will improve tomorrow, I can never do that. But I can do today. I will never be able to convince you to put money in your BSL-4 or even BSL-3 labs. You probably shouldn't even have them. But all other labs, yes, I should be able to convince you that you need to improve that quality. I was in Bangladesh, as I spoke about this earlier. They got a score of 4 on the JEE on the spread of the diagnostic labs and how much they cover. Fantastic, 4 out of 5, which is huge. And they get a 1 in terms of quality. So what's the point of having a lab if I go there and you can't do a thing? That makes 0 sense. And so, you know how much time it took for me to have that discussion with them? Hey, you need to strengthen the quality of your labs. 1 minute. They said, yes, we will do this. What do I have to do? I said, oh, I don't know. I have no idea how to strengthen a lab, but I have to now call in the experts because I'm not a doctor or a medical. I have 0 idea what to do. All I know is that, you need gloves, maybe. I had no clue. But that conversation was extremely easy. Extremely easy. If we can do that, we succeed. Otherwise, we fail. It's as simple as that. I worked in the government for many, 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 many years. I know for a fact I put in 0. And I was asked to put in 0. I was asked to focus 0 time on anything that had a return in the future. I know it is wrong. I know we should be worrying about it, but that's the reality on the ground. I was mayor of a city for 3 years. I ran more than 150 schools. How much time did I spend in those schools? 0. Yes, it's a mistake. I ought to have focused on that. But I had other problems which I had to focus on. I had to get water going. I had to clean the drains. I had to get the sewage pipes cleaned up. I had to get the flood water out. Proximate issues take over all the time. The ones that happen later, happen later. We have to bring them in. That was the focus of this discussion. Next, please. I'll skip through them, all these. We are kind of running out of time. Next, please. And next. Just some names of all of the luminaries who helped us think through this, and the reviewers. I want to recognize Ron, the Professor Waldman, who's sitting behind there, who was one of our gurus in this. I want to recognize Professor Rebecca Katz, who was one of our reviewers. And this was a great exercise. We learned a lot from this process. We have made some progress, not as much as we wanted to or thought that we would, but definitely it's significantly more than zero, so therefore it is good. Next, please. And what you have here is the website, the www.worldbank.org/PEF, and where you'll get a lot of the details of the PEF that we spoke about, all of the operational details, the ops manual, anything that you want to see. Feel free to write to us. We usually respond, sometimes slowly, but almost always, not because we are lazy or arrogant, we are just disorganized. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your time.